It's the penultimate game of the season. It's the final home game of the season. Welcome to Paxton Road TV and welcome to the preview show. I don't know what's going on here. Here we go. Welcome to Paxton Road TV, the beauty of live TV. Hey, what can you do? Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the preview show. Brentford at home tomorrow in the penultimate game of the season, or Tottenham Hotspur's final home game of the season. And joining me to preview the game, whether there's an actual game that goes on and any fans that are going to be interested, is the one and only Sam Spurs for Life. Good evening, Sam. How are you?
Oh, yeah, I'm good. Thank you, Sid. Welcome everybody to the stream, and yeah, let's talk Spurs, I guess.
Absolutely. So, like I said, final home game of the season. Now, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow because there's supposed to be a football game tomorrow. Actually, not one football game tomorrow. It's the men's at 12:30, followed by the women's straight after. I don't think it's about 4:30 kickoff.
Yeah.
So you've got the men's and women's at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which is a first. For the first time, you're going to get two games in one day. There's a lot of stuff going on social media as well about boycotting the game and doing the protests and stuff like that as well tomorrow. So, Sam, how interesting is it going to be tomorrow at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium being the final home game of the season?
Yeah, usually the final home game is supposed to be a bit of a, I guess a celebration of just the end of the season. The players usually come on, do the walk around, and everybody claps and says, yeah, well done, end of season, all the rest of that sort of stuff. We all know what sort of season we've had this season. Very disjointed, changing of managers, interim over interim, and then we've got Ryan Mason in charge, and we still don't know who our manager is going to be. Protest organised for tomorrow. How successful they'll be, I don't know. But we do need some changes. I think we've all got to that point now where we know there is changes afoot. So, yeah, tomorrow's going to be interesting. Two games. I think that might, possibly help matters because people may be interested in the women's game. So, I don't know. I just want us to go out and play and just have a performance. That's all.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think Daniel Levy is doing what Daniel Levy does best because that women's game is a must-win for them. Otherwise, they get relegated as well. Having it back to back, it's going to be interesting because you're going to get all the fans in tomorrow. It's a sellout anyway. Whether people, turn up in their seats or not, I don't know. But right at the final whistle, depending on how the results go, the fans are going to obviously show their dissatisfaction for the whole season. A few players might get a bit of stick. Daniel Levy is definitely going to get a bit of stick. For me, you know what? It limits the time because normally the players finish the game. Then sometimes they go back inside. Then they come out to do the warm-up, the farewell. I've seen it a few times where they've literally not even bothered coming out or they've come out for literally 2 minutes. But having the women's game on straight after is going to narrow the window. So it's going to be very interesting. In terms of, obviously, the players' attitudes, the morale, it's the final home game of the season. There should be high morale in that. Players, they should be or hoping to put a performance on for the fans tomorrow. Do you think there's going to be, how can I put it? Are the players going to be bothered tomorrow to actually show face? Right.
So that's where I'm interested. I'm interested to see what the body language of players are, probably more so after the game, because we're they're likely to come out and do the walk around. Do you remember that season when we thought Harry Kane was going? He thought he was going as well. He came out, he was doing all the clapping, and he was looked quite sad, and it almost was like it was a farewell. We already know that Lucas Moura is going to be going. It'd be interesting to see what Harry Kane's body language is like at the end of this game.
Yeah.
Is he going to try and play it cool? Is he not going to play it cool? Is he going to show that he's, wanting to get out? I don't know, because he's kept it very close to his chest this time. There's been no Gary Neville interviews. We all know he's got 1 year left on his contract. We've seen the likes of Son. We've seen all these players, Kulishevsky. We've got the likes of him. We don't know what his thoughts are. He hasn't been playing that well. So there's a lot of players in a bit of limbo. And this could be their chance to kind of just air everything in terms of how their body language is. It's very difficult to master that. So, although we've not heard anybody come out and say directly, I'm leaving the club, apart from Lucas Moura, it's going to be interesting to see what they're doing at the end of the game tomorrow, Sid.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Before we move on to the preview itself, I just want to say one thing. There's like Arsenal have released players and they've said who they're releasing. Man United have released a sheet, 9 players. Other teams have done the same, and we haven't said anything yet in terms of which of our players are going to be going. I mean, we know Hugo Lloris's contracts situation. We know Moura's already said he's going, and then you've got the other players as well. We don't know nothing what's going on. I don't know. Is it because we've not got a manager and a DOF or sporting director? Are they waiting for that to be concluded before they make a release statement of which players are going? Now I'm hearing Ajax, the Feyenoord manager's very, very close. However, they don't want to appoint him until they've got a director of football. But they've got a short list for director of football. So it's all going round in circles. Apparently it's hotting up, but it's been hotting up since Conte got sacked. So I don't know what's going on. And the sooner it gets done, I think the better. However, let's move on. Because this is a preview show, and our preview shows are short and simple, and this one is no different. Right. Brentford tomorrow at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's going to be an interesting game because when we look at the league table, Brentford are 4 points behind Tottenham Hotspur on 53 points. Played the same amount of games, and Aston Villa got the same amount of games on 57 points. Brighton now on 58 points with 35 games. I'm not even going to look at the top 5 because let them sort that one out. So tomorrow's game, Sam, if we lose tomorrow, that means Brentford are 1 point behind us. We're going into the final game. Now, I'm going to say it because we've only got 2 games left. What's the realistic now for us? Is it to get 6? Or are we just now filtering between 6th and 9th?
The result, obviously, with the game against Newcastle Brighton, that's I guess helped our cause if we've got a cause. There is a lot of permutations if it's a case of looking into the European aspect of it because of the FA Cup, because of Champions League, what Man City are doing. So yeah, from the table, I think we could finish as low as 9th. If we lose tomorrow, if we don't win tomorrow, it puts Brentford way, way into it because our last game's against Leeds, and that's going to be a tough ask to win that game. So Brentford could effectively get a draw against us, win their next game, or win their last game, and they could go above us. So we could finish as low as 9th. I'm hoping that they'll put up performance tomorrow. Ivan Toney's situation with Brentford's not going to help their cause. They might just decide, oh, you know what, it's a bit too much to try and win this. We don't even know if we're going to get into Europe. Might be on the beach time. We've been on the beach since January, so I don't know. But I'm hoping that the players will turn up and it will be a case of, yeah, we get a victory tomorrow, mate.
Yeah, I think Brentford have to win tomorrow, Sam, because if they get a draw, that puts them on 54, that puts us on 58. Going into the final game, they can't overtake us then.
Yeah, of course then. Yeah,
so
of course. My
it's
mathematics is rubbish.
It's Friday.
Yeah, because only 2 games left. It is Friday, mate, and I'm hungry as well. So that's
I know.
the case.
I know. Right. So, as we said, position, we're 7th, they're 9th.
Yep.
17 won, 13 won, 6 draws, let's say 14, 13 losses. We've lost 13 games compared to their 9. Average goals per match, 1.81 to Spurs, 1.5 to them. Average goals conceded, 1.64 to 1.25. And chances per created, they've got 1.72 compared to 1.64. Tomorrow, for me, the game, I think it's tilted in our favour purely because Ivan Toney's not going to be available, and he plays quite well. But then again, other players have stepped up when he's not played. So I think it's going to be a close game going into tomorrow's game. Looking at that stats as well, Sam, do you think it's going to be any different?
Well, the stats at this stage of the season, if the teams are close together, kind of align. And this is pretty much shows where these two teams are. We're very close in terms of the points amassed. So I would expect the stats, if we've got this goals against thing, 1.81 average goals per match. Sorry, that's score per match. Average goals conceded, that's what I meant. It's 1.64. That's terrible. We're letting Brentford have, more clean sheets than us. We're having Brentford with less goals conceded than us. Do you know what I mean? It really is it's not a good season. Thomas Frank is also being looked at, I've been hearing. So he might be trying to put together a bit of a tactical nous to get a victory against us, which I'm sure he's going to do. It all depends on the attitude of their players and the attitude of our players, what comes out tomorrow. If they're on the beach, we should win this. I'm not going to say comfortably, but we should win this. If both players are on the beach and both teams are on the beach, it could be anything, mate. It could be anything.
Yeah, I think it's like you said now, innit? It's penultimate game tomorrow, one more game after that, and it's just what like we've said last couple of games. It's whichever team turns up on the day. We should be at home, final home game of the season. We've had a bad season, and you know what? You would expect the players to turn up tomorrow. The fans will turn up.
Well, the one thing I was going to add is about the fans, because obviously there is talk about protests being organised for tomorrow. There is dissatisfaction within the Spurs fan base. It's very split in terms of how people are, more so people disenchanted by how things have happened and what's happened with the manager. So it could be toxic if things don't go and start well. You've been there, I've been there when it's been toxic. It's not nice for the players, and it's not nice for anybody, to be honest. And we don't want that for our last home game of the season, surely. So I'm just saying, fans, get behind the players tomorrow.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. I said to you, it's going to be pure and simple. Played 3 times, 2 draws, and we've won 1. I'm not even going to carry on. We'll just move on to that one. So it was Brentford 2, Spurs 2, December, Boxing Day. 23rd of April 2022, Brentford 0, Spurs 0, Spurs 2, Brentford 0.
Oh, shall we move on from this one?
Yeah.
Because if we talk about it, you know what's going to happen, don't you? So
yeah,
I don't want to talk about it.
No, we don't. Because we've only played them 3 times, and that's, you know what.
And we haven't lost to them. So if we talk about it, we know what happens. That's what happens.
Exactly. Last 5, we lost 2-1 to Villa. They beat West Ham 2-0. We beat Palace 1-0. They lost to Liverpool 1-0. And then, obviously, the Liverpool, Man United, and Newcastle, 2 losses and a draw, whereas they will have 2 wins and a draw. So, again, like we said at the beginning, Sam, I think it's about right. Looking at the table, 7th and 9th, it's about right compared to the way the season's gone. They may think they should have done better. We're probably thinking where we are, we're lucky with what the season we've had. So yeah, it's. I don't think it's just playing for either the Europa Conference League or the Europa League, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. At this stage of the season, I guess unless you're challenging for something, and we had been challenging for something. I guess if you look at the top 4, now you're looking at Europe. Now we're just looking to cement a better than Brentford. That's what we're trying to look to do, because I think Aston Villa are looking like a team that could go on and win their last 2 games. If you bookend the 2 games that we had, Villa and Newcastle, Newcastle one was an abject performance. Villa wasn't great, but the games in between that, at least we put some effort in. At least we'd seen the players, even though we got 2 losses in there as well. We saw the Liverpool performance, we saw the Man U performance, and we got a victory against Crystal Palace in there. But Aston Villa wasn't a good game. Newcastle was a horrible game. And this is what I'm saying. Who turns up tomorrow, mate? Who's playing? We haven't got a clue. I didn't see the press conference. I watched that later on tonight, and see what Mason's got to say. I do like his attitude, but he's just not experienced enough to deal with the coming future of Spurs. In the summertime, there's so much shit going to happen. But let's just get these 2 games done, get 2 victories if we can.
Yeah, agree. And in terms of, obviously, we don't look at the last 5 games anyway, because it means nothing because tomorrow's game, like you said, it just depends on which team turns up and that. I think from what he said about team news, injuries wise, he said there's nothing different to last week.
To report.
Nothing to report. He said there's a few players still carrying niggles and that. He mentioned Basuma might have a shout again. So team wise, I think it'll be Forster in goal. I think Romero, Langley, Davis, and Emerson Royal. Do you think he'll stick with that formation at the back?
Back four, I guess for a home game, you would expect, because he's been doing this hybrid back four with Porro as a, an extended forward that comes back in. I just don't. Yeah, I'm going to cut it short. Yes, I think it will be the same formation, mate.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to bring Dyer back in. I think these two are doing well. In terms of midfield, I think this is how he's going to line up. I think Basuma and Skip will be in the middle. I think he'll give Højbjerg a rest, or he'll give Skip a rest. But I think Basuma will definitely start tomorrow. He has to start tomorrow now because final home game of the season as well. And when he came on last week against Villa and whatever, he did play quite well. And then obviously Pedro Porro, and I think he's going to go with Kulu, Son, and Kane. That's what I'm predicting. I think he'll go with. Do you think he'll change anywhere there in the middle front?
There's a few things that I could potentially see happening. Now, I could see us going back to a traditional back five.
Yeah.
That has Porro in the wing back and possibly has Perisic as the wing back. And then that back three would then be, I think, Emerson, central would be probably Romero, and then Longley or Davis. Then I think the midfield two, yeah, I agree with you. Basuma should start, but I don't think he will. I think Højbjerg, because there's no need to rest these players. And then the front three, Son, Kulusevski, and Kane, I think it will be. So I think it's going to be back to what we know, 3-4-3. But potentially with the players playing, you could still play that formation if you play Porro and you play Emerson, and Emerson does that hybrid thing with going back into a right back or going into this right centre back position.
See, now there's a lot of palpitations with this team because does he give Richarlison a chance at home, final home game of the season, to get a goal at home, right? Does he give Danjuma a run out because everyone's been crying out to say he needs a run out? We don't know. Lucas Moura's final home game, is he going to show? Is he going to get time? Is he going to start him? Is he going to bench him? I don't know what's going to go on. Is it going to be sentimental values? Or is he going to go, sorry, no, I need to win this game and I'm going to play my strongest, best team to start off with? And then does that mean like some Basuma, Danjuma, Richarlison start, or do they miss out? There's a lot of questions that are being asked, but I think Mason will stick to what he knows best. I don't think he's going to risk people like Danjuma, although we all think he should. Do you think he'll?
I don't know. Firstly, to answer the point about his best team, I don't think he knows what his best team. He hasn't got his best players available anyway. But I don't even think, even with the likes of, Benson could be out. I guess Hugo, you could class him as first team, although he shouldn't be ever playing for the club again. So I'm not sure he knows what his best team is. What I think he'll do is probably just go back to who he's seen performing and the attitude of players in training. Now, because of that, I can see Richarlison starting because he strikes me someone that does put the effort in. Kulusevski's been off the ball recently, but so has Son. So who does he choose between them two?
Yeah.
If you put Richarlison in. So I'm going with the fact that I think Kulusevski, this is important for me to see what his body language is like, because remember, I'm not sure if we've got a complete deal done on him in terms of this. So, he could be thinking, what's going on at this club? This is what I'm saying. The last few weeks of Kulusevski has been very interesting because he hasn't got back. He just hasn't got back to that level that we know. He's had ins and outs and flits and flirts and all the rest of it. But I'm concerned that his mind's elsewhere, and this last game of the season will tell a lot, because players should still have the right attitude to win the last game for the fans. So let's see.
And the interesting thing about Kulusevski is, like you said, they don't know yet whether they sign him or not. But I've heard they think they can get him on a discount now. They're going to ask for a discount price. And I'm like, only Tottenham Hotspur Football Club can get a player on loan and then ask for a discount at the end of the season for whatever reason. Because I think there must have been stuff in his contract or in the negotiations to say X amount of games, Champions League or whatever. But I've heard that they're going to ask for a discount. So it's going to be very, very interesting.
It will be interesting to know exactly what their detail. I know we're not probably going to know, but the details of his contract. Is it a commitment for us, as in we have the option to buy, or is it a case of the long loan period happens and that's it? It's end. We have to then be in the market with everybody else. I'm not quite sure. I think it must be an option to have him permanently, because otherwise there'd be talk about him possibly going elsewhere. And I've not really heard that. But this is Spurs we're talking about. It's going to be a long, cold summer.
I've heard that I think it's not an obligation, it's an option to buy. And I've also heard that there's not many clubs, nobody's coming for him. So
interesting.
Yeah, nobody's coming for him apparently, because obviously it's been a hit and miss for him. So nobody's coming for him. So I think we're the favourites to get him. And whether we get him at discount price or not, I'm not too sure. But that's why I've heard, that nobody else is coming for him. Unless somebody does at the end of the season, then decide, you know what, let's take a punt on him. We don't know. Right, let's welcome everyone who's in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed to our channel and make sure you smash that like button. Davy Clark, hi from Leicester. Our next coach is going to slot into our club seamlessly. LOL. Yes. Matthew Bassett, evening all. Big up everyone in the show and in the chat. He's also saying here, saw a few rumours recently about Sheikh Jazim buying Tottenham if he can't buy Manchester United. I think, Matthew, they're the same rumours that linked us with Messi, Mbappe, Neymar, Ronaldo, by the looks of it. But no, I have heard, but apparently he has put his final bid in and it is a bit more than what they wanted. So it's just a matter of time now. But as always, when you got a club like Manchester United, you don't get them, then are you really going to put in a bid for Spurs? Is that out of pity? Thoughts on that one, Sam?
As I said, I think we talked about that on the talking points. Why would you go from Manchester United to say, all right, then I'll just take Spurs? I know we're a London club. I know we've got all the facilities. I know all that. But
yeah,
they were looking at Man United because Man United, in my opinion, have got all that history behind them. So they're looking to probably win stuff. So the owners are probably looking to do something similar to what Manchester City are. And you'd start with Man United because they've got that history behind them. Tottenham, it's a long road. So they'd have to plow in a lot of money. Now, they're going to have to spend a lot of money anyway to buy Man United. But I think it was 6 million for Man United and about 4 million for Tottenham. Are we worth 4 million in this market in terms of what we've got history-wise? I don't believe so. So
4 million, yeah. Not 4 billion.
4 billion. 4 million maybe, but 4 billion is a lot of money for Spurs. But that's the going rate if Daniel Levy and Enoch say so. Yeah. I just don't know if these rumours are true, mate. I just don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Matthew Batt saying, I think Ruben Amorim, Roger Schmidt, Benfica coach, Marcelo Gallardo would be very good choices for Tottenham. It would be, but are they good choices for Daniel Levy? That is the question.
Are they good choices for the players? This is the most important thing. Unless we have significant changes of players as well, nothing's going to change, really. We'll have short-term success, if you can call it short-term success, in whatever manager you have, unless you get the bearded one again, which was just terrible from the start. But we're going to get a little bit of success. But long-term, there's so... Like, we're choosing the manager before we're choosing the director of football, unless that's been sorted out. I don't know. They should be in the right order. Director of football first, chooses your manager. You've got your technical team, your scouting team, your medical team. All this sort of stuff is important, but it could all be up in the air. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? That is the big problem. David Clark is saying here about the Spurs ladies team. Matthew Bassett saying, I think Kane will stay. No team is going to pay the money Levy wants, especially as he's only got 1 year left on his contract.
need to keep Kane this year. Even if he walks on a free next year, said that many times. We
Yeah.
are battered next season if we don't have him as a goal scorer.
Yeah. 1 second, my boy's doing my head in. Villa are not going to win at Anfield. Behave yourselves. Well, Jurgen Klopp's not on the touchline tomorrow as well, but you never know. Michael betting we should have actually got the wins against Man United and Liverpool in the end, in my honest opinion. Yeah, but we didn't, and it was
we should have at least got a draw out of the Liverpool game.
Yeah,
we should have at least got a draw. I don't think we deserved to win. We were 3-0 down in that game, but we come back to 3-3. We did have chances, but I still think we should have got a draw.
Agree. Skip being promoted into the Spurs players little gang. What a joke. What's this Boy Scouts? You know what? I'm quite miffed with that. The fact that he's going to be vice captain. I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, it's a bizarre one. Your thoughts on that one?
Bizarre. That's all I can say. Bizarre.
Yeah.
Just know.
Sud Richarlison, he's a loser. Don't start him. What else have we got? Let's have a look. Oh, Dinosaur saying good evening, mate. Kulu was 30.5 million with Champions League football. Well, there you go then. There you go. So now without Champions League football, who knows?
What's Kulu's attitude towards this? Is he? That's what I'm talking about, the obligation and commitments. Whether or not we definitely have to.
I don't think we have to.
So he might want. The way he's been playing. He doesn't look like he wants to be at Spurs much.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't look like he wants to be at Spurs. So
and
I don't know.
I agree with this, what Dino's saying here. I would take Kulu on loan again. His drop-off this season is a worry, and he has not changed up his game. But then again, though, Son's drop-off has been a worry. Richarlison's 50 million plus price tag has been an absolute worry. So a loan would be a great option, but again, whether Juventus are going to be willing to, allow him back on loan, I don't know. I mean, we've sent players on loan time after time, so it's going to be an interesting one.
I don't know what the harmony's like in the dressing room at the moment. We know we had that incident where Hugo Lloris supposedly said he's not coming out for the second half of the Newcastle game, so there must have been a lot of dysfunction. We've obviously heard what Conte's had to say about the dysfunctionality about certain players, so there must be problems in the dressing room. I look at it like this, as you said, Son hasn't been playing well all season, but seems not to be able to be dropped, apart from that one game where he started as sub and came on the next game, so he came on that game and scored. That's maybe what some of these players are just a bit miffed at. Kulusevski, every single time, he's always starting. Richarlison, it doesn't matter what I do, Son's always starting. We know what Harry Kane, and he's got a right to start.
Of course.
But Danjuma must be thinking to himself, what's going on at this club? I can't even get a game, and Lucas Moura comes in as sub and gives the ball away, but yet this is it's just mad. It's crazy stuff. Really and truly, we just need to get to the end of the season, get the summer sorted out, see what's happening with Harry Kane, and hope for the best.
So going into the game tomorrow, obviously players' mentalities are all important. The manager's mentality tomorrow as well is going to be crucial. Have they now been told by Levy, obviously, and everybody else upstairs, we have to get into Europe? We're not getting Champions League because they put all their pennies in that Champions League and we blew it in that 1 week or 2 weeks. Are they now saying we have to get European football? Or is it just a matter of we have to get Europa League, we're not bothered about the conference? Or has he been given a message or an email to say we need to get into Europe no matter what?
I was going to say, just on that table again, we said if we could finish, depending on what the result is against Brentford tomorrow, we could probably finish around about 8th. I think Villa are on a charge, and I think Brighton will come back from their defeat. So they've got the points in the bag to be able to get higher than us. So we probably could go down to around about 8th. I don't know if 8th, depending on what the permutations are, gives us anything in Europe, but it might not be in our hands, Sid. So I'm saying that these players have had things in their hand all season and didn't care. It's not in their hands now. So why would they care now? This is what I say. I don't know what their attitude is going to be like. That's the biggest thing for me for tomorrow, to know whether or not they're playing for Europe or not. I don't believe they are. I think they're just playing because they have to.
Yeah. Well, this is it, isn't it? Because obviously to Daniel Levy, it's all about this, isn't it? And if there's no European football next season, regardless of whether it's the Conference League or the Europa League, he's not going to be happy, is he? Because that's not going to be coming in. Less games. He's going to have to start thinking about concerts or boxing or F1s or go-karting to get more money in. David Clark saying here, the sign of a poor club is when there is a pecking order, and you can tell that that's what's happening with Mason selections.
And I expect that to be the case, because he's got to stay in his comfort zone. He's not going to just try and do so many new things, because he's auditioning for the part as well, but he's not going to just do craziness what we would all like to do, put this player in and put that player in. He's not going to do that, because if he has a Newcastle moment, which could still happen before the end of the season, we've still got to go to Leeds, who are going to be Sam Allardyce up and wanting to stay in. He's got to be careful what he does and don't tarnish too much of a reputation that he doesn't really have much at the moment. He's got to just try and do and steady as we go for him.
Yeah. This comment by Terry Wright, I think he's got a point here. Europa League is our level right now. It's a competition. If the right manager and players are bought in the summer, we could go quite far in, slot in.
It's attitude of players. When we saw the Europa League challenge that we had under Jose, was it Jose? They looked awful at times. They looked awful because they thought some of the players thought we shouldn't be playing in this league. We should be playing Champions League. And I can't see much changes in the players that we've got since that point. So I expect them to do exactly the same thing, unless we have somebody who can get their attitude, change some of these players and get them to play. Europa League, Conference League, should I say, is probably using the earlier stages to play players that don't get to play much. But if we're going to take the competition seriously, we have to play our best team, because our drop-off is drastically bad. So who knows, Sid? Who knows?
Yeah. And what you just said, some of these players is a step down to play in the Europa. They played in the Champions League and they were pathetic this season. So are you telling me these same players think they're good enough to play in the Champions League? And they played in the Champions League, and every single game they were rubbish. We was battling to get performances, and we did. And then two of the worst teams in AC Milan and Spurs got to the head to head, and we didn't even score against them. And these players think they're good enough to play in the Champions League. They need to wake up then, don't they?
Listen, West Ham are in the final of the Europa Conference League. That should tell you everything about the standard. Not to say West Ham are a bad team, because they've got a good team and they've got a decent manager, but they can't balance both. Look where they are in the league and look where they are in the competition. We shouldn't have to be that bad. What I'm saying is, if we went for the Europa, we wouldn't be finishing where West Ham are. But currently, given the players and given the attitude and given the circumstances, we'd probably be relegated, wouldn't we, if we were in the Champions League, Conference League final, because we just couldn't balance both. We don't have the personnel.
True.
So until we get that sorted out, I don't know what Conference League does for us, other than it's a competition that we should win if you play it right with the right team. This team, even this team, with the right attitude, could and should win that Conference League next season.
Agree. Good evening to Needs are not all these billionaire Super League is coming by this, by that. Elite has come in the back door. Elite has to come in the back door. Need to be careful what we wish for. Maggie is saying we don't deserve to be in Europe next season. Might be a good thing. It could be a good thing, but then if you want to draw some players and get rid of players, we need to be in there, because it doesn't matter what Europe football we've got, we might be able to draw the players. Dino still saying here, Juventus Network News 24 is saying the Turin-based Giants could offer Kulusevski in exchange for Lazio star Milankovic Savic. So let's see what happens with that. Terry Wright, Europa League is a great competition. I'm really hoping we finish 6th. And finally, Polio 125, Spurs need Europe. Eurovision Song Contest, would that be good enough?
I actually don't believe we need Europe. We've looked at other teams who've not. If we look at the classic top 6, top 8, whatever you want to call them, Arsenal finished 8th, didn't play in it. Chelsea obviously not going to be playing any sort of European football. I know the money difference and all the rest of it is where we have to measure by, but it's not it doesn't kill us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not being in Europe does not end Tottenham Hotspur as a club. What it does do, it allows us to concentrate on playing the game, each game every week, one by one. Whereas when we've got so many, they're saying that we're still going to be another competition. I just think we just need to play what we got next season. If we finish in the European place, so be it. If we don't, so be it as well.
Right, final home game of the season. Fans should be behind the players. Hopefully we'll get performance from the players. What you saying? What are you thinking?
As you said earlier, without Ivan Toney, that's a big miss for them. He does more than just score goals. He's a bit of a creative spark as well. If their players are thinking now about Ivan Toney, I can't be asked now. We're on the beach. Only 2 more games left. We ain't going to get into Europe. Then I think we could probably win it about 3-1. If they're up for it and we're not as up for it, it's going to be a tough game because they're a good team. Even without Ivan Toney, Thomas Frank, as I've always said before about certain managers, they're tricky with their tactics. They're very tricky. He's a tricky manager as well. Doesn't concede too many goals, knows how to set his team up and can beat teams on the break. They're playing away from home, London derby. They're going to be set up to beat us on the break. 2-2 if we don't get off to the right attitude. But I'm going 3-1.
3-1 to Spurs. Fair enough.
That bit at the end.
Yep.
Spurs.
To Spurs. Yep, that's fine. David Clock is saying Spurs 2, Brentford 1, Kane and Kulu. Terry Wright is saying here 2-1 to Spurs. He's also saying the thought of what Slot could do with young players like Gil, Udoji, Spence, Sart, Divine, Poro. Sayers is an excellent prospect. I agree. It'll be interesting. My prediction, I think, it's the final home game of the season. I think they'll want to show or go off in style. Not that we believe in style, but I think they'll want to go off with a victory, do the lap of honour, and I think we'll beat them 2-1. Tony's going to be a big miss, but Mbumo is on fire as well. So I think Spurs will win 2-1. I think Kane will probably score again at home. Kevin Gonzalez is saying 2-0 to Spurs. There we go. So everyone's predicting a Spurs win. Sam, thank you for joining me. No thank you to everyone in the comment section for your comments. Please make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe to our channel as well.
You going to
Matthew Baggett saying key players are wing backs. I expect Spurs to edge it 2-1. Polio 1-5, Spurs 2-0. Mary Maggie, Spurs 3-1 to win. As you were saying, Sam, sorry.
Are you going tomorrow?
No, I'm not going. No. Are you going?
Probably not, because it's 12:30 kickoff. Or it's a 3 o'clock one. I was possibly going to drive down, but I don't think I'll be able to do it tomorrow. I've got a couple of things to do in the morning, so I won't get there in time. So no, but we'll be able to do the reaction show then, won't we?
Yes, reaction show straight after the around after the game, depending on whether we win. It doesn't matter. It's 12:30, so it'll be
about 2:30-ish, won't it?
2:30, 3 o'clock. Yeah, about 3 o'clock.
Well, then we can. I want to watch somebody up because in certain areas you can watch other games at 3 o'clock because of certain things that you have.
5 o'clock after the final on every game. We'll do that.
Or we can do it. We can do it after 2. Don't matter. I'm cool. Well, I don't mind. Cool. Whatever you want to do, mate.
Cool.
I'm around tomorrow, so it's all good.
Not a problem. Make sure you join us then tomorrow for the reaction show. Final home game of the season, Tottenham versus Brentford. Have a great evening, everyone. Have a great Saturday. Have a great weekend. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Good evening. See you a lot later. Come on, you Spurs.